Alrighty, so apparently it is that time again. Thank you for joining us for another Creator Conversations. This is the show where we kind of talk about creativity from the minds of the various creators. So whether it is a singer, a musician, a filmmaker, author, publisher, so many different ways to get in the minds of a creator. And so creator conversations is when we have that conversation. And so we have talked that we've talked from different perspectives, and I'm just trying to get myself together here. So I want to thank everybody who is going to tune in, whether you tune in live or on replay. Thank you in advance. And if you are not already connected with me, I do ask that you do so across social media platforms, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or TikTok. You can find and follow me at my name is Tennille. And please don't forget when you go to YouTube to click that subscribe button so that way you can be notified whenever I post some more content. Um, so today I want to talk about the story behind the song. So let's start here and say this. I personally believe that all mediums, regardless of whether it's a book, a movie, a song, like all of these are just forms of storytelling. It's all ways in which you can share your story. You have a lot of people who will say, and from a literary standpoint, they'll say, I've always wanted to write a book. And the reason why for many people is I have a story to tell, right? And that doesn't always equal a memoir or uh, the story about your life. So, memoir, biography, autobiography. It's not always just a story about a person's life. There are things that we just see, things that we think of, and we want to be able to share that information. And so that doesn't always come in the form of a book, doesn't always come in the form of a movie or a film documentary, doesn't always come that way. Sometimes it can come in the form of a song. And so what is a song is really lyrics plus music put together, right? And that's pretty much at its core. We're not going to go into talking about like compositions, composers, and orchestras and arrangements, and we're not going to make it really be that technical, but just at its core, a song is words plus music. Okay. And so I don't even know when the first official song was recorded. Matter of fact, why don't we look that up really quickly, because I didn't even think about that. But when was the first song recorded? So the first song ever recorded was the French folk tune Au clair de la lune, and this was April 9th, 1860. So this was almost what 160 years ago, over 165 years ago, the first song was recorded. And so this, breathe, take a breath. This is not going to be a history lesson of music, okay? But I did just want to take some time to give context to when, not just when the first song was made, but just putting music in context. And obviously, music has evolved over the years as well, from various genres, various languages, various forms. I remember when videos first came to be. So, like the way that we saw music, right? So before, whenever you think about a song, most people are just thinking about it from an audible perspective, something that you can hear. But then when videos came about, then videos was a way to visually capture what it was that you had the pleasure, ideally pleasure, of listening to or hearing. And so when we talk about the story behind the song, what I want to really kind of go into today, and so not sure how long the show is going to go today, but I want to kind of give my personal story behind the songs that I've created, and then just give you to understand where and how it can come about, right? So let's say you're at home and there's something that's on your mind and you're trying to figure out, well, how can I make this a song? Because again, you have to kind of understand the mediums behind it, right? So sometimes when you hear something, sometimes it's like you definitively know this is a song, just like this is a story or this is good for a movie. So sometimes when you're given the inspiration or you hear it in your head, so to speak, you know exactly the medium for it. Sometimes you don't necessarily know. Sometimes you're given the words and you may not hear the music behind it, right? Because again, you have to keep in mind words plus music equals song. And so I know for me, that was the case when I first wrote Remembering, which is the first song that I released. Um, and when I first wrote Remembering, it was a poem. I didn't necessarily hear it as a song. When I first wrote Remembering, it was a poem that I had written for my mom. And matter of fact, I'm gonna see if I have it. So I want to say, I don't know if I have it, it's gonna be in this book. Um, let's see. I know there were a few poems that I had written for my mom, and many of those were published in what is now my international award winning book. But okay, so apparently, Remembering is not one of the books one of the poems that was written in this book. I thought it was, but maybe it was just the epitome of woman that oh, no, 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 here it is. So it is here. So I'm going to just read you the poem that was written. And this book, again, was published back in 2012. I'm looking at the copyright page. It was 2012 when this was first done. Okay, now keep in mind, my mom had passed away in 2002. And so I had published this. Now, when it was written, if I'm being honest, I don't honestly remember, but I know that it was included in my award winning book, Inspiration from Above, and that copyright was 2012. Okay. So the poem is Days of old, things of the past, memories of you are the only things that last. Thoughts of your words, things you used to say. All I have to remember is our yesterday. Times we had, moments we shared, things you did to show you cared. Nothing left of you but my memories. Your face will I never again see. On certain days, I sit down and cry, wondering the reason, wondering why you were taken away from me, why you had to go, knowing that I love you and would miss you so. Now, what has gone by is nothing but time. I act like I'm okay, like I'm doing fine, thinking of you and the times we shared, remembering. And so, when I wrote this was simply, what do you want to call it, an ode or homage that I was paying not just to my mom, but I had lost so many people by the time I had written the poem. Like I said, I don't remember the exact time when I wrote it, but I know it was included in the book that I published at the end of 2012. And that book will go on to become my international award winning book. But the point is, when I wrote that song, I didn't initially have music in my head. I didn't hear melody. I didn't hear a tune. That was just the words. Because again, I'm naturally a writer. So I've written a lot of different things. I've written poems. I've written books, different genres. I've done documentaries. So, like, you write, there's screenwriting that goes with that. So there are different types of writing. But you don't, again, at the time I didn't hear it. And I think the first time that I heard music, for that was after my uncle passed in 2013, the following year. And I think this show is going to end up being harder for me than I thought because of how I'm approaching it. I did not give, I should have thought about my approach with this show. I When I initially put the story behind the song, I was thinking that it was just going to be totally from a factual presentation stance, like just giving facts and stuff. I was not thinking that this was going to tap into emotional parts of me. But that's also the reality in many cases when you talk about the story behind the song. Every song that's written doesn't necessarily come from a happy place. Many times when we write these songs, when we come up with these words, it's real life experience and it's hard and heavy stuff. And so you write it in many cases from a place of pain. And again, I was not thinking that this was going to hit me like this. But anyway, um, so the first time that I heard music uh, in my head to remembering my uncle had passed away. And so those words came rushing back again. And so at his funeral, I just wanted to sing what I heard in my head. And that was in 2013. And I that was the only time I sang it. And I left it alone after that. And so man, this was not what I was thinking was gonna happen today. Anyway, so I left it. I didn't even think about it again after that. But then it was like 8.5 years later. It's August 2021, and I was hosting my annual gala that I host an annual gala for independence. So whether it's authors, filmmakers, singers, like I host this gala every year just to celebrate all things independent. And um, the I had a friend of mine and his band was there, and they were performing because I always have like independent acts come to be our entertainment for the gala. And so they were performing and they ended up doing a song, and I'm not even sure that he meant to do that song. But the song that they sang was something that he had written for his mother. And so I remember asking him, because he's also a producer, and I remember asking him if he could help me turn this poem that I had written, um, if he could help me turn it into an actual song, because the following year marked the 20th year that my mom would have been, that she had passed away. And he was like, okay, what you got? Now, mind you, I didn't really have anything because I wasn't coming at this from like a composer perspective. Like I just had these words, and I had this verse that I sang at my uncle's funeral, 8, 9 years prior. But it wasn't like it was a full blown song, and it wasn't like nobody else knew it because I just got up to, present it at his funeral. But now I was being asked, well, I need to hear what you have. And what I learned was that there are different parts of a song. And here's the thing, it's one thing you listen to music all your life and you don't, well, for me, I didn't necessarily in my head as I'm listening to the song process, oh, well, that's the chorus, that's the verse, that's the bridge, that's the special, that's the, and not just what the parts were, because here's the thing, that's the detachment from it, because I've grown up in church all my life. And beyond that, I had been a director. So in listening to the music, I know, okay, well, the special is coming up, or the chorus is coming up, or the change, or the verse, I knew that. But when it came down to actually writing it and creating it musically, I didn't necessarily know what it took to make each part that thing. So what I didn't realize was that what I had been singing in my head was really, I think it was really just a chorus. It was just the basic part that would be sang over and over again. The words that I had were verses, but I didn't realize how to arrange them as such. And so that's how come, like, when you are putting a song together, is great, because I think that it takes all the parts. Is one person, just because you can have the words, that does not necessarily mean that you have the skill set to arrange the song, right? So, like, you can have the words, but you don't necessarily know. It's just like a book. When you start writing stuff, just because you write the first part first, that doesn't make it the beginning of the book. That was just the first thing that you thought of. It can be, I remember this old commercial sauce, old commercial for this ragu sauce, and it would say it's in there, right? So at the end of the day, it's in there. So whatever you wrote is in there. It just may not be in the order that you wrote it in. It's all about where does it fare best in that space. And so it's like with the song, um, the how I did it as a poem. Primarily, the stanzas were all verses, but I didn't really have the I probably should have played this song for you guys. And I'm trying, let me take the time right now to apologize, to say that this is real and this is raw, and this is probably one of the worst recordings I've ever had, because I had no idea this was going to affect me like this. And I'm trying to power through. I'm trying to power through, because the reality is that this isn't the only song that I wrote, but this was probably the heaviest, because it was the one that was closest, because I've lost so many people. And with the title, like, remembering, when I first, when I initially wrote the poem before it became a song, it was like it really, it summarized how I felt, because all I could do was remember. All I had to remember is our yesterdays. There's nothing left of you but my memories. And it's like person after person after person after person for over a decade, life straight. I just lost person after person after person. And so, like I've written a lot of stuff in my life. I've written a lot of poems. I've written a lot of books. But remembering is probably the one that stays current and is ever present. Because it's like every time you lose somebody, it rings true again. Oh, man. Okay. So we're going to pause right now. And I'm going to say, if I have not totally scared you off and you still want to connect with me, you can do so by going across social media, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, or YouTube. You can find and follow me at my name is Tennille. And if you haven't already done so, please feel free to go to my website, which is my name is Tennille.com. And what I am able to do, I can help you with a myriad of things. So, a few different ways in which you can work with me, whether as a publisher, whether um, so I work in short, I work with authors, creatives, and women, and I help to get you to be the best version of yourself. And sometimes being the best version of yourself is having to find a way to deal with how life affects you, because life is going to affect you. And I don't care how much of an expert you are, I don't care how knowledgeable you are, how many connections you have, degrees you possess. Um, Life is going to find a way to come knocking at your door. And so, even though today I'm a little bit more on the emotional side, that actually is a result of having to tap into the grief that had become part of my life. And so, in either case, if you are looking to grow in your journey of this thing called life, then you can go ahead and look at the website. My name is Tennille.com and see how I may be able to help you. Now, let's see if we can get back into this thing. I'm trying to salvage this show as best as I can because I don't even know at this point if it's salvageable. Um, But let's say this. So I ended up working with my friend who produced my album. I'm sorry, I'm saying album, but it was a single. And I think the other thing that's worth mentioning is that when you release a song, there are two different types of artists that you can be. You can either be a recording artist or a performing artist, right? And some people do both. So, meaning like you go in the studio and you record the song, and that's really what you want to do. You don't want to go out, you don't want to perform. And people have different reasons why they don't want to perform. Some people may just sing as a hobby, and that's not what they want to be known for. You know what I mean? Like maybe in my 9 to 5, I'm a doctor or a dentist or a stewardess or whatever. And so singing, this is a song that I was able to do, but I don't want this to overshadow my career, right? So some people may just sing for fun, sing because they enjoy singing, so they don't want this to be something that they're known for. So I'll sing in the studio. I'll come to the studio, lay down some bars, sing some lines, whatever. But that's the extent of it. Some people is that they just don't have the time. So and I won't even just say the time, they don't have the desire. So I'm not trying to make money off of this, because what you do have to know as an artist, and even though things are a little bit different now with the advent of the internet, like back in the day when you didn't have a world wide web, you come out with a song, and from the artist side of things, you basically you want to go by markets, so markets being different cities or states or whatever. So you might start also, as an example, I'm from Chicago. So if this was say 40 years ago, and I'm coming out with a single, then first I want to try to hit all of the venues in my city, right? And so you start building up momentum there, and then you start branching out. So you would go from like Chicago, and Chicago is such a vast city, it's 77 different communities. So I might start going community to community, and then you branch out to the different, as we call the Chicagoland areas. So it might be the neighboring suburbs, whether it's south, north, or western suburbs. And then you keep going to, now you're going to the different bigger cities inside of Illinois. So I might hit Peoria or Rockford or Springfield, you know what I mean? So you just keep on going until now you've hit all of Illinois. So that's how it used to be, and not just with singers, but with anybody within artistry. So like if you was an author, you start that way. Like what we don't realize is that the internet has really helped us to, um, as it pertains to the approach that you have to take. You don't necessarily, I don't want to say you don't have to work as hard. You don't have to work in the same way. Now, a lot of people will take their music, and so, they might upload it to Spotify or to iTunes or CD Baby, or, those different Amazon Music, those different distribution channels, because you want to try to just get it out where people can hear it, get it to terrestrial radio stations, meaning like your FM or your AM stations. So many different ways that you can get your song out there. And 30, 40 years ago, it was you physically had to go to put it in front of people. And that's what performing artists did. So it might take you a long time, might take you years for you to start cornering markets, or, becoming known in the market. So you had to do multiple shows, whether it's, two, three shows the same day, but definitely at least two, three shows in a week if you're trying to become a name. It's a lot of work that has to go into it. And the point that I'm making is a lot of people may not have wanted to go through all that. So you just stayed a recording artist. Or, as I've just alluded to, you're a performing artist. So there are some people, they love being on the road. It's not even about how much money they're bringing in. This is just something I genuinely love. So having this song opens the door, because without this song, I'm just, whatever my name is. But with this song, now I'm this performer, you know what I mean? So now, are you hiring a singer or a band or whatever? So now I have an asset that gets me into the door, and so when you actually love it, the performance aspect of it, that's what this song does. And that's the other reason why people would go from market to market, because again, pre-internet, pre-social media, you were not able to record somebody's performance and then upload it to a Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, or whatever. No, like the only way a person got to experience it was if they were actually in the room. And so there was an element of surprise. And that's the reason why even now you will see like some of these performers, whether they're artists, I've heard that Usher and Chris Brown do it. I know different comedians like a Dave Chappelle or Kevin Hart do it, where they will take your phones because they don't want for it to be recorded and put out there for social media, like, because it ruins the element of surprise. And it's like, if I'm coming to your city but you've already seen it, then you may be like, well, what's the point of paying for it when I just already saw it, right? Some people will, because they just want to be able to say that they were in the room. But many people, especially if you were not going to have like a VIP ticket, a meet and greet, or front row experience. Many people, rather than to pay just to be in the room, if I can see it, then I'm not gonna pay for it. And so the point is, um, if a lot of people, they prefer, if that's what if their passion is performance, then they're going to want to be a performing artist. They're going to want to go from place to place singing this song over and over and over and over and over and over again, doing 3 4 shows a day, 5 shows, 10 shows in a week. You know what I mean? Like, it takes so much to really get your name out there. And then, like I say, interviews, whether it's TV interviews, radio interviews, it takes a lot. And so you have a lot of people who may know how to sing, and they don't want to go through all of that. And I'm not giving the ins and outs. This is not the show. It wasn't supposed to be the show about the, behind the scenes and what it takes, the pay for plays, and all different things that it actually takes to make it as an artist. This is actually supposed to just be the show where I talk about the story behind the song. But all of this is a part of it. Once you create that song, once that song is created, so you have the words, you figured out the arrangement, you got the composition together. So now the music, everything is coming together. The song is out. So it's like, what are we now going to do with that song? And here's the crazy part. There are times when I would play Remembering, and I would get flagged. I don't know if I still would, but I get flagged from YouTube when I'm the artist. So I had to call my producer to say, hey, I would like to upload this to YouTube, and them know that it's me. I am the artist. Same thing I had to go through with Facebook and other social medias, where, you might want to use your song as the music in the background, but it's a lot of red tape that you have to go through when you're doing certain things. But the point is that, to let's round robin all of this. When I wrote Remembering, I was definitively not wanting to be a performing artist with that song. Because number one, y'all already see how it broke me down in the interview, and this was not even what I thought was going to happen. So this was not for me something, because I couldn't even, again, as a creative, you always want to think, who is my target audience for this? Who is the demographic that's going to be listening to this song? And with a song like Remembering, I genuinely couldn't think of a place where it would be played under good circumstances. Like, I could only think of this if we're doing like funerals or memorials, or and so for me, it's like, anytime somebody loses somebody, and if they play this song, then I am forever grateful. But for me to just go around, place after place, venue after venue, city after city, state after state, just constantly singing this song that makes me have these recollections, um, it was not what I want to be known for. It was definitely not. Like, I know a lot of people who reach out to me, and they will tell me they love this song, or it helped them to really cope with what they were living with or what they were going through. And that makes me feel good to know that I can help somebody, that my song helps you in your grief journey. And whereas now, when I sing Remembering, it's not necessarily that it's bad memories that come from remembering my loved ones, but what gets heavy for me is just thinking about how many loved ones I'm remembering. You know what I mean? So that's that. And depending on where I'm at, I may sing some of that before we leave, so that way I don't have to worry about getting flagged from a social media stream if I sing it live. Because if I play it, then I got a inkling of a feeling that they may try to mute it and say that it doesn't go with, all of the legal mumbo jumbo. But yeah, so anywho, if you are just now tuning in to Creative Conversation, today's topic is the story behind the song. I am your host and transformational empowerment specialist, or transformational empowerment architect, Tennille M. Jackson. And I have been all over the place on this show. This episode has got me in all of the feelings. And so this was in no wise professional. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm a human just like everybody else. And some days certain things hit you and you're just not prepared for how it's going to hit you. And so this show, just like all of my other ones, is live. So yeah, I could cheat and say, okay, well, whoever didn't tune me into this just won't see it. They'll never see the light of day. But it's not that deep. If you see it, if you happen to watch it, this is real. This is 1000% raw, unedited. You get to see, again, this is genuinely what this is, the story behind the song. Everything doesn't come from this place that's so well put together and, just so professional and void of feelings. It's not like that. Rarely, when you're writing about something that is near and dear to your heart, will you be able to attach or detach yourself emotionally. And that's what you guys have been able to witness in listening to today's podcast. But again, I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to connect with me across social media platform, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, or YouTube. You can find and follow me at My Name is Tennille. And then on YouTube, please take that extra second to click that subscription button, or the subscribe button, so that way, whenever I post new content, you will be notified. So we're going to jump right back into it. This first piece of the show was me talking about the first song that I wrote, which was called Remembering, wrote and actually recorded, because I've written other songs that were never officially recorded or released. And again, if you are listening and maybe you are a songwriter, you might just be a lyricist, you write the words, like, do understand that there is a process for all of this stuff. And maybe on another show, I will go through the technicalities behind it, like, or the legalities, I should say, behind it. Like, when would you publish a song? When would you go through doing all of the work and paying all of the money? Because there are a lot of people who write and they never go through the work of being published. But for me, with these two songs, Remembering and then the next one I'm going to be talking about, I went through what it took to publish it and have it officially produced and things like that, because of what it represented. So Remembering was more from a personal stance. This was a tribute honoring my mother and her 20th year. I call it her death anniversary. And so that's what this was. It was a tribute to her. And so I wanted to actually put it out there. And it wasn't just for her, but this was like, I had finally gotten to a place where thinking about my mother did not break me down for probably at least 7 to 10 years after my mom passed. It was just very difficult to talk about it, at all. Like, leading up to those 7 to 10 years, it was next to impossible. I didn't look at pictures. I couldn't hear her voice. I couldn't, and so I finally got to a place in my life where I could think about my mother without it causing pain and grief and hurt. And so this was my way of just sharing those moments that I'm now able to have with her, with the world. And so we wrote this song. It was released August of 2022, August 18th specifically, because that was the actual date that she passed. And then I want to say it's maybe a year or so later, my oldest daughter, she was in college, and one of her assignments, she had to create a music video. And she came to me and asked, Mom, can we do a video for the song Remembering? And I was totally honored that she'd asked, because the fact is that in my head, I did see Remembering as a video. I didn't know how to create it, but I saw it as a video. And so when she came to me to broach the subject, it was like, of course, why not? Let's go ahead and let's do it. Um, and so that's what we did. And she was so professional with it. She was very professional with it. She's like, "Hey mom, this," like, we had meetings, and she presented it to me what she was thinking. And I was like, wow, you've really given a lot of thought to this. And so when she thought about it, I mean, what she presented to me, it was really kind of difficult at first, because one of the things that she wanted to do was us going to the music, I'm sorry, to the cemetery. And to know me is to know I don't really like cemeteries at all. Don't visit them, don't go at all. But I loved what she said, and it helped me to get over myself enough to actually do it. And matter of fact, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I think the video is less than 4 minutes. So at this moment, I'm going to digress. I'm gonna play the video so that way you all can not just hear me talk about it, but I'm going to play the video, let you all see the video that my daughter produced. This was all of her ideas from the storyboard, so from concept to creation. And then you'll also be able to actually hear Remembering without worrying about me having to sing it. So here's my song, Remembering. Days of old, things of the past, memories of you, the only things that last. Thoughts of your words, things you used to say. All I have to remember is our yesterdays. I'm remembering times we had, moments we shared, the things you did to show that you cared. Nothing left of you but my memories. Your face will I never again see. I'm remembering certain days I sit down and cry. Alrighty, and so that was the video for my song Remembering. And let me also say this. So for me, that video, it meant so much, the making of it and everything about it, it meant so much because this was something, again, I felt like it was a legacy piece. You know, we're making the video about my mom. I'm performing it, and my daughter is directing me in it. And so, you know, for me, that's a memory that I'm going to always have with me. You know, I think sometimes when we do projects, it's not, and this is from the creative mentality. It's not always about whether or not it's the most popular, whether or not it's the prettiest, whether or not it's the, like sometimes it's as simple as this was in my mind and now I see it manifested. Sometimes, like we all have our own personal reasons for why we do the things that we do. And for me, I was so proud of my daughter for having the vision behind making this happen. And when I tell you guys, it was a lot of different things that was working against us, such as Chicago weather. But she found a way to make it work. And she was able to help get me through as being like the character, right? She was able to get me through the humps because I think in my mind when we walked through the storyboard idea and her telling me that she wanted for me to number one go to the cemetery, um and then number two, like having to reenact finding my mom because I was the one who found my mom. In my head, prior to shooting, I think that I thought the cemetery would be the hardest scene for me because I really, 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 really don't like cemeteries at all. After my mother's funeral, like prior to my mother's funeral, I didn't go to cemeteries. Me and my mom were alike in that we did not like cemeteries. Because it was my mother, I went to the cemetery. It's just too final for me. And I almost passed out seeing them lower the casket into the ground. And so I have not gone to anybody else's burial. I tried after my mom passed away to go to the cemetery after that, but I had to stop because every time I would go, it would make me feel worse. And my grandfather told me, he's like, I don't think that's what your mother would want. And you don't have to physically go to the cemetery to have those conversations with her or remember her. And so, anyway, the point is that in my mind, I think that that's the scene that I thought I was going to have the hardest time recording. But in actuality, the scene that really was the most difficult for me was the scene reenacting when I found her. And what you all saw on the video, like that was a one and done take. First of all, it took it took a lot to get me to do it. Like, because again, I didn't think nothing of it, and I knew, so it was my sister actually laying in the bed playing the role of my mom. And I knew it, like logically, I understood what the assignment was and what we were trying to get. And it was like every time I would hit that door and I saw my sister laying there, it messed me up. And I had to come back, it defensively triggered me. And we honestly didn't think that we were going to be able to get it captured because it took so much to actually get me in the room. And then once I got in the room, because she just wanted the scene to, mimic me. See, exactly what you all saw. That was her vision, to capture me knowing and seeing that she was no longer going to be here. And it was like we were recording. And so when I'm shaking my sister, like, and you see that meltdown, that was not acting. Like I literally kind of had who, yeah, it triggered me because even though I knew it was my sister, it was like I still felt like it was my mom or something. I can't really explain it. Um, but it broke me down for real. It broke me down for real. And I told her, I said, if I can't do this. I can't do it. I thought that I could, but I can't. And she was like, it's okay because I think we got the shot. And so her thing was, are you okay with me showing this? And so I told her, I was like, we knew that that was the assignment. So if you're happy with whatever we got, then go with it. But I definitely can't do it again, you know? And so I say all that to say that when we're talking about today, the story behind the song, sometimes some of the songs that end up meaning so much to you, you have no idea the process that the artist, the singer, the songwriter had to go through to be able to get you what it is that you're able to see and or hear. You know, you think about some of your favorite songs, and many of them are derived from a place of pain. When you think about like the songs that you go to during your breakup seasons, how do you think that the person wrote them? Like these were not many of the times it wasn't, oh, well, let me just think of something. No, many of these are coming from places of lived experiences. Many times, the hurt that the reason why it resonates so well with you is because somebody actually had to go through heartbreak in order to sing to you about heartbreak and make it feel real with you. When somebody sings a song and it breaks you down and you're crying, 9 times out of 10, somebody was crying when they wrote those words. They just happened to catch it. They put it, they took pen to paper and they wrote it and they went through the process. But it's not, when we talk about artistry, when we talk about creativity, it's not always easy. It's not just, you know, plain and cut and dry, because you have to tap into parts of yourself that maybe you didn't necessarily want the world to know about, vulnerability that maybe you didn't necessarily want to share. But as an artist, that's what we do for our craft, you know. And so I thought coming on to today's show, I was actually going to share with you guys the story behind both of the songs that I created, Remembering and I Survived It All. But apparently, and I tell you guys this all the time, I'm not a scripted host. I'm not a scripted podcaster or whatever title you want to give it. Like, what you see is what you get. You know, I'm always led and I go with wherever that moment takes us. And even though I probably bumbled through the first half of this show, I'm not ashamed or embarrassed of where it led, because this was a place that was honest and pure. And so I hope that if you tuned in to the show, that you have an appreciation for what it is that I did share. This was not at all where I thought we were going to go. I thought it was going to be more concrete, with me just giving you like the story cut and dry behind creating Remembering, and then the story cut and dry behind creating I Survived It All. But apparently this wasn't that. And so maybe on another show I will talk about my second song, I Survived It All. But if you want to see or hear Remembering, again, it's available across all music platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you go to hear music, you can get access to that song. If you want to see the video, it is again on YouTube. And so while you're on YouTube, you might as well go to My Name is Tennille. Click the subscribe button so that way you can be notified anytime I upload new content. Also, if you want to connect with me on other forms of social media, you can do so, whether Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. You can find and follow me there at My Name is Tennille. So I hope that you all enjoyed today's show.